Welcome to Brave TV. This is Dr. Jason Dean, Justin Rizvani. How are you, buddy? It's a pleasure to have you.
What's up, my brother?
How's it going, man?
It's fucking going. It's fucking going. It's the day in the life of an entrepreneur building an incredibly challenging technical product. And that's what's that. That's what's
Yeah.
there's people messaging. There's people coming in.
Yeah.
This is live?
We're not only are we live, we have like lots of viewers.
Oh, amazing. This is cool.
It's all
I love that.
So I stumbled on you through actually one day on Twitter. You popped up on Twitter for me, so I followed and I checked it out, and the word Zion caught my eye because I've gone down some rabbit holes, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" So then I saw JP Sears, and I'm a doctor, but in the natural health space, and so I knew JP before the whole Liberty movement. Like I knew about him and watched his stuff, and I'm like, "Wait, they're working together. This is interesting." I'm also big in the gold, silver, and crypto as well, and the death of the fiat. So I'm like, wait, this is weird. I got to talk to these guys. I see that. So I stumbled upon you. I've been watching videos. I'm quite impressed. Before I have a few interesting questions about your upbringing because I'm fascinated by it. But first of all, let everyone know like who you are. What is Zion?
That's a question. What are you doing, man? The who I am is a question I ask myself every day. I promise you, it's a question like, who am I? I wish I knew, but I guess the person that I attempt to show up in the world is an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've been a creative problem solver my whole life. And what is Zion? Zion is a censorship-resistant social product built on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So that's the easiest way to describe it. But think of, we're trying to build something that's censorship resistant at the monetary layer, not just at the technical layer.
It's fascinating I dove into this thing and I was checking out and I went to be on the wait list and everything. And I'm kind of like looking through the videos and the intro videos of how it's done. And we're evolving so much as not only a planet, but a country right now. And we're walking away from this. It's weird to say that social media has become archaic so fast because what you're building is the next level, but it's not about, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're going over to productivity and higher moral ground wins the game, if that makes sense.
Transparency wins the game.
100%. So like tell people what that means, because we're used to right now, people go on and post their cat pictures to Facebook. It doesn't actually necessarily win anything versus putting out content that actually is not, like you said, transparent, but it solves people's problems.
Yeah. I think that at the base layer, social needs to solve a few things in order for it to like evolve into the next layer. And these are my 6 theses of what social should look like in the future. Number 1, it should be built on a monetary layer. So it should be the next thing is it should be open source. So it means that the peers can allow to innovate themselves and suggest code and suggest improvements, including on the algorithm level. It should be focused on peer governance versus platform governance, which means that the individuals that use the network are the ones that self-govern the system. Beyond illegal activity. Illegal is illegal. We will never stand for illegal activity. That is set by over 200 years of case law. That's not going to be our job to define what is free speech and not free speech. We've had 200 years in the Constitution to define what is free speech. So we're going to follow the law no matter what we do. There will be digital property rights to encryption. The creators own everything. These are the tenets that I believe the next future social network should apply into their thesis. And Zion is just one of those companies.
So instead of being governed by someone who operates and runs the company, i.e. Twitter, Facebook, etc., this is literally putting the power back into people's hands. And then if they decide to just play and have fun, they can. But if they decide to be a productive member of society and put out things that solve people's problems, revenue and other quantities of good resources are going to flow their direction.
Yeah, and it could be direct, right? So we use the Lightning Network as the payment layer of Zion, and Lightning is a peer-to-peer cash network built on top of Bitcoin that allows for instant transfer and instant settlement. So we as a company are not even in the middle of some of those transactions because it's node to node. You hold the private keys on your device. We're trying to build a really new age style company in the new payment rails as well.
100%. Now, as we dive into this, because I want to talk more about the network and what you're doing and building and how this came about, I'm fascinated because we're similar in a few ways. Well, many ways. We're all connected. But you went when you said you went to community college, I was watching this on another video, and I'm like, man, he actually took the route that I was terrible in school. I mean, when like in high school, it completely bored me to death. Like I was getting through with C's, a couple D's, I had a couple B's. I went to community college, and I'll be honest with you, even with a doctorate today, community college was one of the best times of my life. I was mentored by some people who were just entrepreneurs that were great people. You also came up to this. Give us a little bit of a background because I think this is important for people to know on why you are where you are right now. What your foundation of entrepreneurship.
Um, I guess I, it's what I've done my whole life. I had no other choice. I'm unemployable by most means. So, and what I mean by unemployable is like people with ideas don't work well in um, modern day slave culture, aka working for people. So I just wasn't in the right mindset to go work for a company. And my strategy was to kind of build my own path. And I've always done that. I wasn't a great student in school. I went to community college, then got into a university and graduated, but still wasn't like a great student and just kind of did things the way I felt like I needed to do them in the world and kind of built the life that I built here.
But you became a great connector because as I look behind the scenes and watching some of your videos and watching what you're doing, it may not be book smart, you're really street smart. And at the same time, you're business smart, but the people you're pulling in and have connected to build this, it looks like a superpower for you.
I think that definitely is a gift that I have is connecting dots. I think that's my major the thing. It's like, what is my zone of genius? It's just solving very hard technical problems by putting pieces together and seeing how they all might synergistically work together. That's kind of the thing that I guess I've always had a gift in putting pieces together and saying, oh, this could connect to this. And really in the ether of how I solve problems. But I think everything is a solvable problem. Everything is a solution. There's a time horizon for everything, but I think everything is possible. I think anything's possible, actually.
100%. Do you have a coding background? Is
No,
that no?
no, no. That's the biggest challenge in running a technical company and not being the person writing the code is it's very hard. The amount of angst that I have to go through to make sure that this stuff is actually being done the way it says. That's why I've preferred to build this company open source because I don't want to claim something that isn't true. So we put all our code out there and say like, hey, this is what we believe is what we're building. This is how we're building it. Don't trust us. Verify how everything works. Because I also don't ever want to be in a position as a person that says, oh, I said something and it's not true. I keep everything 100% open source. So like I'm an open book. Eventually we're going to be an open startup. And what that means is we're going to put all of our growth public. We're going to put everyone's salaries public. We're going to put everyone's how much they get paid public. We're going to put everything and how Zion works in the intricacies on every level of the business. We're going to open it up for the entire world to see. That's my plan. That's what I want to do because I think transparency is the most important in this new world. And we're a company that wants to provide freedom and sovereignty for creators globally. And we have to be transparent along that journey.
That's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about that. So when you say transparency, not just obviously at the level of building, but also people involved, people
Oh
working,
yeah.
people's
Oh
salary.
yeah.
Like that's a big jump, man.
That's it. I mean, the good thing is I don't get paid anything. So that's the point, right? Like for me, I have no issue in holding it. And for my team, yes, Zion was from the Matrix. That's where we got the name. It's the last city without machines. I think that's the exciting part about building a company in the new way is like, cool, you should know everything. Like why should some of these like tech companies that you're seeing built, like, why should you restrict how much that engineer that's writing the code is getting paid? Why not be transparent about it? Why not be open about it? Like, oh, this is how much it costs for them to run the business because of all the people that they have working there. Why not be transparent? Why not be transparent about how much users are coming in, how much revenue they have coming in, how much usage is on the application? Um, I have no fear in that. So, and also I got nothing to hide, right? I get paid zero. That's the reality.
You don't wanna get paid 0 though, man. You gotta get paid for the fruits of your labor.
No, I think that I'm okay on the back end. I am a large equity shareholder of the business. I want to make sure that this company thrives and is fruitful, and I don't need short-term cash to make sure this thing is viable as a business. I also don't need it to pay for my life. I had an exit when I was 27. I sold the business when I was young. So I don't need it. So I rather build the health of the organization in my strategy.
So, okay, there's some good background. So you were an entrepreneur. You've already done very well. You're obviously taken care of. We talked a little bit before we actually went live. This is purpose.
100% purpose driven. Yeah, I was semi-retired. I didn't have to work again. And then somehow I get caught up in this idea and I was like, fuck, the world needs this so bad. And now we're seeing some of these things like, oh, Twitter's going to be free speech, blah, 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 all these pledges. Again, they're pledges. We don't know anything yet. I think it's great, but I still think the world needed this. So it's
100%.
100% like I'm not a mercenary, I'm more of a missionary right now. And I think my plan, if I can find, is I want to find more missionaries that want to grow, like join this movement, because we have a technical pattern we want the world to exist in. I think there's three things wrong with the web. I think that no one owns their own identity online. They have no idea on how messages move across the internet and how their messages are highly centralized and how they want to communicate with each other. And then the money is broken fundamentally because of fiat.
100%.
So those three things are broken on the internet. And we want to provide a solution for all three of those things. So what we do, number one, first solution is that every person that joins Zion is held on a DID, which means it's a decentralized identity that they own through a private and public key pair. We do not have any access to those private keys. What that means is you have full sovereignty, but you also have full control. You lose your private key, you lose your login to Zion forever because we don't hold it. We don't have a forgot password, forgot backup. We don't have any of those things inside of our application. It's actually held on the device itself. So we have no control over that. Secondly, how the messages are transferred is through an open spec called the decentralized spec. This is a spec that's been used Web3 standard decentralized identity foundation. That's how messages move from two DIDs. So if you go to our website or our guide, I outline exactly the process and how the code base works. Go to our relay, it's open source. The final piece is the money. If you want to transfer value to another individual across the internet, right now it's probably done through a highly centralized system, PayPal, Venmo, banks. We use the Lightning Network for instant transfer and instant settlement. We use that as the payment rails that underlie Zion. So again, we're not inventing our own token. We're not inventing our own blockchain. You don't need a blockchain to do this kind of stuff. We're just building a pattern that we believe all people should follow. And that's just the way we wanted to build the technology. Is it going to work? I don't know. I hope it does. It's one of those things that's it's a crazy idea. It's a crazy idea because you're like, wow, you want people to have full freedom of their ownership of their data? Yeah. You want to have full freedom of ownership of their money? Yeah. You want to have, yeah, we want to. We want to give this thing a real try. We think that people deserve it.
But I love how you're honest about that. And the fact that you're going, hey, we have an idea. We have a purpose driven behind it. Is it going to work? We hope so, but we don't know. And that is entrepreneurship. That is freedom. Is you start something and you're like, well, we're going to give it our all, but there's no guarantees in life.
Of course not. And that's the inherent risk of what we're doing. We're trying to do something that's in this pattern has never been done before, right? Like, okay, people have been talking about DIDs and Lightning and payment for a long time. So we're just really early. And I'm just a different kind of CEO because my strategy is to like talk about it, be open about it. Some people are very quiet and they build and I'm like, well, we're building too. We have engineers that are working full time on this thing. I also want to just share like, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what I'm saying is not right. Maybe this is not the correct pattern. Maybe there's some genius out there who's like, hey, Justin, I have a better idea for you. I'm open. My DMs are always open. I want to listen to people. I just think this is the right way to do it. And that's also why I wrote a book on it. I mean, I wrote a book
I have your
on
book. Good
what's
book, by the way.
thank you. Thank you. It's right here. I look
Show
at
it.
it
Yeah,
every
it's a
day.
great book. I've highlighted it twice on the show
Mm,
before you came on. I also highlighted on my After Dark show, and I was like, guys, you got to read this because, well, again, whether or not you agree with it, like this is the kind of thinking we need in the world. We need people to be transparent, open-minded, open source, but also there's so much centralization behind the scenes, all coming down from globalist cabal types, and we have to break free of this matrix.
yeah. And I think if you get a chance, it's on Amazon. I made it cheap as possible. It's $10. It's I think the audiobook is $5.99. It's my audio. JP read some of his audio as well, which is kind of cool. So it's a book by me. JP Sears did the forward. We have quotes from Tony Robbins, Aubrey Marcus, and Mark Moss on the back. So would greatly appreciate your support on it.
And you're not lying on when you said your DMs are open. I followed you on Twitter. I DM'd you. I'm like, I DM'd him. He's a busy guy. He's not gonna like a random person DMing him. You got back to me. I'm like, whoa, this dude's not playing around. That's impressive.
I tried to read. I don't take myself that seriously. I don't think I'm that important. So if someone sends a message that I find valuable, I'm going to respond.
How do you create competition, or should I? Well, let's not say competition. How do you create the urgency for people in our now we have social media sites popping up all over the place? How do you create, or how do you become magnetic to pulling people into the idea of Zion versus a Meta or a Twitter or a Truth Social or anything like that?
I think it's about the movement. I think it's about the community. I think it's about the technology. I think what's happening in Unapologetic Freedom was the name of the book.
We'll
I
put a link
think
in
that
the show afterwards too.
I think the thing that I'm seeing with these other things is that they're all pledges on centralized services and they're not really driving the innovation. Like I'm leading with innovation and tech, not with the idea that you're free. And maybe it's a wrong strategy. I don't know. I mean, I just like for my mind, the way that I work, I really am interested in really cool future forward ways of things being done. And I think there are other people out there that also think that way. So that's the kind of that's what I'm leading with is that okay, you get to do all these things on this app. It's a little bit different. It's a little more clunky. It's not perfect yet. We're the first to do it. Think of this stuff as like the first websites in 1995. Not great. Just not great. But they had a mission. They had a belief. They had a and I have a belief, I have a mission, I'm standing by it. I spend all my waking hours on this. Like I'm a human being that spends all of their life for I only have one chance at this thing at life and I have one chance to do this and I'm spending all my time on this. So it's like one human out there trying this thing really hard and working basically 20 hours a day on it.
I love it. This is Justin Rizvani. His social media, I don't even want to call it social media network. It is a social media network, but it's actually so much bigger. It's
It's a
called
payment
Zion.
network. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
payment network.
it totally
It's
is.
a communication protocol. It's a lot more than just a because I think social networks cheap. I think like Facebook and they've made social so cheap. Not I'm not trying to disregard what you're saying. I'm just saying
No,
like
I understand.
generally my opinion is like they've made it really cheap because they think that like you own nothing. Like they could turn you off at any time because they own everything. That's the
You
terms
own
you
nothing
sign.
and
Like
you'll like it and be happy. That sounds like something from the World Economic Forum.
I don't. I was actually corrected by someone. One of my investors sent me a message saying that they actually never said that. So I'm not sure anymore if that was true. I don't. I'm not big a misinformation spreader, but for some reason I got a message. I put that out there, and I got a DM back by somebody who was like, "Hey, actually, this is not true. They never said that." I don't know if they said that. I've never heard someone actually say that. I've heard other
Interesting.
people say that they said that, but I don't know. I don't
That
actually know.
we'd have to dig for. I've seen graphics, but again, that could be changed too. So
That's the thing. I think that's the interesting thing. Who's this guest? I'm Justin Rizvani. What's up? Patriot mother. Cool handle.
isn't that we this is the way back to the founding of our country, really, just in a modernized version. where everything becomes transparent and we can get along because we agree to finally not destroy each other over viewpoints, but look at other viewpoints and not have to agree with it, but go, hey, yeah, I can live around that person. They're a good person. They just have a different idea than I do. And that's where social media comes in.
Yeah, I think we have to. I think the conversation around the difference of opinion should occur. I think it's what
Correct.
makes a great society. I'm not sure about like the founding of the country. I'm sure there were some things that were transparent back then, but I think there was a lot of things that were probably behind the scenes
I'm sure.
that were not. I'm sure the Declaration of Independence wasn't something that was posted on the banners across everything. Like, hey, we're going to revolt against this country. I'm sure a lot of stuff was done in
You got to keep the
secrecy.
war strategy a little quiet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think like I think there was some quietness about um, that, but I think we're entering a phase where we should all just face the truth of our reality. And if people have difference of opinions, that's fine. Let us as a sovereign individual be able to judge that. Like we have a brain. We all have a brain. And we should be able to judge things using our brain. We shouldn't be, I guess, pushed and said, no, you should only think this or you should only think in this way. I think we should have a brain and decide what is true and what is not true.
I would completely agree with that.
And we,
Go ahead.
no, that's it.
Oh, okay. Bitcoin.
Yep.
We have a absolute war going on between coins, between tokens, between precious metals, the entire financial system. Now, there are people out there, and I follow people from all different backgrounds on coins. So I'll follow people who are following XRP, XLM. I'm following Bitcoin people. Nobody can come to any agreement on. Are there any concerns for you going forward in that world of being on Lightning Network, on Bitcoin, and being specifically on Bitcoin?
No, I don't think there's any concerns that I have necessarily about the underlying technology. No, but of course there's risks, right? I was
Sure.
with a friend yesterday and um, he was asking me, he's like, so what happens when a superpower government that has a massive army makes Bitcoin illegal? What are you going to do then? I don't know. Nothing. It's done. Because that's a possibility. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what a nation state says that like owning, having, interacting with this is illegal. Is there a possibility? Of course. So I don't know. I don't know. I like it's these black swan events that I have no answer to. But I think the technology is sound. I think that I made a decision to build on the Lightning Network because I thought that it was the most decentralized. I thought it was the hardest money. I thought it was the fastest way to move funds. I thought that in culture, generally, people don't want another token. They want the hardest asset ever created, which is Bitcoin. I think what's really cool about Bitcoin is that eventually you'll be able to move other kinds of assets on Lightning for instant transfer. So ultimately, the Lightning Network becomes a actual payment rails, like the Visa network, like the MasterCard network, like the American Express network. Remember, these are highly centralized payment networks that allow people to pay each other. And I think the Lightning Network is an optimal version of that. So, like, what we describe ourselves to be in the next 5 years is like, we're going to be the payment processor of the creator economy. And we're going to use the underlying infrastructure of Lightning to do that. What is the speed of Bitcoin? I don't even know what XRP is, so I can't answer that question.
You don't know what Ripple is?
Oh,
Ripple, like the SEC lawsuit?
I don't care.
Okay.
Like, sorry.
You have a singular focus, and I actually think people can learn from that.
Yeah, there's something to be said about focus. People are all over the place nowadays, talking this, talking that. Like, focus, get some shit done. Like, seriously, it's not hard. It's just focus. There's something to be said about it.
So there is something you guys are building on that not enough information has come out. So if you watch the mainstream media, which I do not, and all you hear about is Bitcoin slow, Bitcoin slow, Bitcoin slow, you're talking about the Lightning Network. No one is talking about that except for folks like you behind the scenes who understand it, because that is actually the technology, like anything, like any technology, it's going to improve. And I
It's
don't
how
think enough
Bitcoin
people know.
scales. Ends of story.
Right. So like give everyone a little synopsis on Lightning so they understand that Bitcoin is not quote unquote as slow as everyone claims it's
No, it's not at all. So yes, the base layer is highly secure and very slow. I think that's one of the biggest things is you want the base layer to be slower because then you can't have fraud, you can't have manipulation. And the reason it's slow is because imagine when you make a transaction, every computer in the world has to see that transaction and every computer in the world has to confirm that transaction. That's going to be slow, but it's also going to be very secure. So Lightning gets invented in 2017. And what it allows you to do is to make instant transfers at much smaller amounts between two individuals in an instant way, and then an instant settlement. There are very, very, very small fees on the Lightning Network because it allows for an instant transfer. It doesn't require all these computers to confirm these base layer transactions. So if people are talking about like, imagine every transaction in the world on the Bitcoin blockchain main chain makes no sense. It would never happen. That's why it's expensive. But you want the base layer to be expensive, but you want the Lightning Network for smaller transactions to be fast and instant and almost no fees. I mean, to give you context, we did 120,000 transactions inside of Zion between fans and creators in the last 6 months without any fees. So it's possible to actually be in a no fee environment if you control the intranet of where things are going. That doesn't exist on any current payment rails.
There's also a lot of confusion right now, and a lot of, because we go over this on the show as well, is the Ethereum network and the insanity of the
It's a
fees.
different thing, though. It's a
I
different
know, I
thing.
know. That's why I'm
like,
saying you're
like,
clarify that, because we've talked about this in the background too. Is the Lightning Network is not the same, and Ethereum is totally different network.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ethereum is building a computer. It's got smart contracts. There's complexity of assets. There's transfer assets. Like they're building complex computing equations inside of a blockchain. It requires fees to compute, blah, blah, blah. Ethereum and Bitcoin are completely different. I think the way to think about it is there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. That's how you have to think about it. Bitcoin is this sovereign, decentralized asset that has no central company, no control. Everything else is built by a company. It just is. And most of these things are stocks in companies, illegal securities per se, if you want to go down that road. That you're betting on the technology. Like, oh, I'm like, you're betting on a stock. You're gambling. You're
100%.
gambling.
Wall
into
Street is
this
gambling.
thing.
There's no way around it. I
Yeah,
mean, it is just legalized gambling.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
So you are thinking at a very high level with Zion.
You're very
But here's my
kind.
question.
Thank you.
You are, dude. You are. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it's also very high level. And anything simple can have a high level of thinking to it. But here's the question for you. I know that you're not necessarily going to try to market this like another social media, Facebook, but to get people onto it long term, where do you come in, or who comes in? Maybe it's not even you at the education level to bring this down to the average person to get them to understand there's a new way of doing this, and this makes a better world.
Creators are the thing that I think drives so much change in the world. So influential people that already have a lot of followers on social media. That's my strategy. And that's why we've like brought in endorsers. JP was an early endorser in the business. We have investors like Tony Robbins, Aubrey Marcus, Mark Moss, Robert Breedlove, Aaron Rodgers, Griffin Johnson. Like we have Anthony Pompliano, Sean Stevenson. Like we have people that are really influential in the world, have tons of audience. And eventually when the day is that when the time is right, we make those phone calls with our alignments and say, hey guys, it's ready. We're ready. Right. Because the thing that I have to remember I'm dealing with is that this technology is very complex. And it's like, we're building this in an open source way. We're building it in an open way for people to see like, hey, like this is super hard. We're writing code every day. We're committing new stuff, but this will take time. This is not as easy as just spinning up a central server. Like the reason Trump got social whatever thing up really fast is like he just built the same thing everyone else has built. It's easy to do that. It's
It
easy to
looks just
build a
like Twitter.
database. Yeah, it's easy to build a database and say, okay, now this is your username. And then when you post, it goes here and essentially like super easy. What we're trying to do is some really complex stuff, bleeding edge. Like we're trying to move payments between people with no one in the middle. We're trying to like imagine every piece of content that's being posted in this feed is a potential lightning transaction. Like everything is a payment opportunity in Zion, right? But do that in a way that you can scale to millions of people. Very hard. Very, 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 very hard. So
That's very interesting. So I want to tackle your brain a little bit. The reason why is because I truly believe that this world is going to be carried on into the future with the young people right now. And there's a giant, obviously, liberty movement. There's a giant homeschool movement. There's a giant unschool movement. And I take your mind right now as like, you remind me of like, we're unschooling my daughter. And that's how her brain kind of works. With the way you came up to this point, there's a lot of people out there who are very terrified of their kids coming out of the system. Oh my gosh, what if they don't learn? Kind of take them through what you've done up to this point and how much more rewarding this is than if you had been stuck in the system thinking
no,
centralized.
I mean, I
Does
don't.
that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, kind of makes sense. But look, I went to school. I've always been a good student, and I've never been a good student. I was a good person, a bad student. Um, I um, I think a lot of the stuff that's happening also is very divisive. I grew up a liberal. I lived in California my whole life. I moved to Austin, Texas in 2020, like after the pandemic, because I was like, I don't like some of the things happening here. But I would say I'm still very center. I
Okay.
don't think I'm one side or the other. I don't really think there's a cabal that much. Like it's just too stressful to think about all these things. I just want to execute. So I think it's all about how you feel most sovereign in your own life and find your own path and solve for it. I think like the victimhood of society is not the best path. And I think
I
when
agree.
people say like, "Oh, woe is me, the educational system is fucked up," well, take your kids out and do what you want to do with them. They're your kids, right? They can be free. You can do it. The thing about America is you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? Like
It's
you
true.
literally can do whatever you want. My dad is an immigrant from Iran. He came here. He built an amazing business, raised me, and we are crushing it as a family. And you could do whatever you want in this place. Like no one's holding you back. Like there's no one that's restricting you from being successful. There's someone taking something away from you. So I think that's the dialogue people have to have within themselves is like, there's no one that's out competing you to do better. There's no one. There's no one. No one. Like I don't compete with anyone. I just do what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. Yes. There's other companies that do what they were doing, but like it isn't woe is me all day. I think that's another challenge of society right now. Is like a lot of people are like, woe is me, right? Woe is me. Woe is not you. Just execute. Just go.
100%. That's, let me tell you, everyone is so distracted today. It's hard to get away from that. It's
Yeah,
hard to get
get
back
off
to that
social
focus.
media and execute. Like it's so distracting. If you watch, because that's their business, right? Like remember, all these things are businesses and they're designed to keep you engaged because then they sell ads to third party people. That's how the entire industry works. I worked in that industry for 10 years. I was, oh, he didn't understand the question. What do you mean I didn't understand the question?
You know
I
what's
answer it.
funny?
I
You know what's
answer it the
funny
way I
about the
want to
comments?
answer it.
You're one of the rare people that actually looks at the comments because most
It's
people
in my
just like,
face. It's just in my face so I can
no, no,
see it.
I know. But the funny part is they're used to people not reading the comments.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
I think it's funny.
I mean, this is your show. I want to create value as much as I can, but I don't know where I was saying. I got distracted from Diana Lakabach.
They're companies. Their job
They're
is
company. Oh yeah,
data.
exactly, exactly. So it's all advertising based. So
Right.
the goal is to keep us distracted. I think that's another thing about Zion is our business model will never be around ads. We want the people that use it to subsidize the cost for it to run. That's what we want it to do. So that's why like payments are native to the protocol.
Okay. Now I got to unpack this because what you just said, I have to think about this. So we're used to an ad-driven society. If I get
A
on social
third
media,
party subsidizing the cost for a service to run. You are the product. Remember,
Correct.
When you watch CNN, you are the product. When you go on Facebook, you are the product. They're selling your attention. They're selling everything about you. That's why they need all your data. That's why they're going to serve you things that rile your
Sure.
soul up. They've designed it in such a way.
100%. So you get a bunch of creators on Zion. Great idea. I've even seen some of the people on there, and you got a lot of health-minded people, which is awesome. So I hope to be on there very soon. There's going to be so I think and I could be wrong, that the soul also says, I want to get to more people. I want to get to more people. I want to get to more people. And that drives them, yes, to produce, but then go, well, wait, what if I could throw $20 or $100 or $1 million at getting in front of more people? How do you get around that desire, or is it just not even available? Does that make sense?
I think it's a good question. And you're saying, what if a creator wants to run ads to drive their audience, make their audience bigger?
Here's a good one. So I was almost destroyed by the medical profession that wanted to give me a bunch of psych drugs. So now one of my purposes is helping kids not go down that road and harness or unleash their creative genius. What if I get on there and I'm like, I need to get to more people. I need to save more children, and it's worth it for me to go, here's $1,000, get it out there so I can save more children. Now, it's not a greed thing. It's a, how do I get in front of more people? Is there a way around it, or is it just produce more content?
I think produce more content, and then eventually it will all move up. I think the problem with social right now is we've been distracted by this follower count that's a
Yep.
complete illusion. We don't actually know how many people see what we see. We actually don't know how much money we can monetize from the audience. So I think things will evolve to is this value for value model where a creator can monetize directly from their fans. And maybe that's $1 a podcast. Maybe it's $1 a video. Maybe it's $2 a video. Maybe it's 50 cents a video. Maybe it's a quarter for every time you make me laugh. I think that's the opportunity we see with the Lightning Network is you can move money at the speed of light with very small amounts. I think that's kind of where we're seeing. Yes, we have a website, getzion.com or zion.fyi is our new website. It's coming out soon, but we just finished some code to it. So if you guys want a sneak peek, zion.fyi.
So you mentioned that you were retired early, which
I tried to.
Which when we look
I
at you,
tried to.
you
I
look like you're
tried
about
to.
20 years old. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I'm
you look very young.
33.
You don't look 33. Right.
I'm 33.
So one, really well done, man. That's awesome. That's what the American fights for every day. I mean, we're in a system where people were working their asses off to like 65, 70 years old, and then their quality of life starts deteriorating greatly while they're trying to like be happy with their money versus like learn how to do it in the beginning, work hard, and then enjoy your life as you go. As you did that and you retired per se, you didn't really retire because you're working your butt off, right? What drove you, other than this purpose, because obviously you're behind a purpose now, what drove you to keep fighting and keep producing? If you might have a mountain of money sitting on, right?
I had a health scare, and I had and it's in my book. I would highly recommend if you read the intro of my book. I think if you read my book, you saw the intro and that story. And then like I got out of that and I was like, man, am I just gonna throw in the towel at 31? Like, just doesn't feel right. Like it just doesn't feel good enough to just like 31. Is this really the right time to throw this all in and just like live off interest? And I felt this energy to like itch to get back into something. And I was like, all right, what's like one of the biggest problems I can solve? Because for some reason, I don't like try really like small shit. Like I'm not creating a juice bar, or not saying there's nothing wrong with a juice bar,
Sure.
right? It's a different business. Like
you're going big.
I want to aim really big. I want to create a world changing company. So I just decided to do this because it felt very obvious to me that this should exist in the world. That's kind of the biggest aspect. It just felt so obvious that this should exist. So I would actually, what I really wanted to do is be an investor, but I couldn't find a company that was doing this. So I just had to build my own. I was hoping someone had done this already. I was like, oh, there's got to be somebody doing this in this way. And nobody was. I was surprised. I was really surprised.
Wow.
So
you work harder today than you did when you were running your
smarter. smarter because I have access now. Like at the beginning, look, I'm 20. Imagine this. Like I'm 24. I just graduated college. Nobody knew who I was. So I was grinding like a motherfucker to get into doors. Right. And I still am, by the way. Like hustle is one. I'm a hustler. Like I work my fucking ass off to get indoors. I'm pitching all the time. I'm talking to people. Like this is my narrative of like, I got to get in front of you to hear my story. Because I didn't come up with anything. I wasn't like I didn't nothing was handed to me when I was a kid. So I was forged in fire, and I had to learn and to like be in front of people and be out there and get punched in the face fucking all the time. Like I am constantly punched in the face, but that's the job. The job is to just get hit and keep going. But most people, it's fine. Like you're not supposed to get hit in the face and fall down.
Well, but I think being punched in the face is required in this world to thrive because
If you want to live a fulfilled life, maybe it's a
everyone has a
question. I
plan
don't
to get
know.
punched in the face.
I don't know. I mean, some
Well,
people
what
live a
made you
great
push
life.
through that? What made you push through after the punch in the face?
It's every day. It's every day. I mean, there's a punch maybe multiple times a day, right? Like it's not all roses over here. What keeps me going? I don't think I have a choice. Like I do have a choice, obviously. I'm sovereign, but like it's like so clear to me that there's a plan in all of this, and I don't want to quit because I feel like getting punched in the face is shitty, but quitting is way shittier.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. With the value of Bitcoin doing crazy stuff right now,
What does that mean?
it's just up and down. We were at 77,000. We're down.
We were never
I'm
at
not.
77. That was 69,000.
Were we not at 76,000 at one point?
Never, 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 never.
Was that not what was that? Anyway, the whole point is we were up
Can't
there
be
pretty
spreading misinformation on live television.
high. Everyone else does it. I'm kidding. With it going up and down, not that you care because it's not necessary. That's not what's tied to what you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make it more complicated though? With what
No,
you're
because
doing
because you got to zoom out, zoom the fuck
Okay,
out, right?
go
Like
for it.
I think a good analogy that I have around Bitcoin, and this is like the spiritual side because I'm a bit like I'm kind of going through some spiritual work myself,
Sure.
is that the price of Bitcoin is highly correlated to your soul's growth in this world. When you were born, your soul was just developing. It was just this new aspect. And then you had things in your life that created setbacks and growth and setbacks and growth, some very large, monumentous things, and then things that fell right back down. I think that's the general correlation to who you are as a person and the price of Bitcoin. It's going to have volatility, but it's only going in one direction. You're growing and you're still alive. This thing will, I think, continue to grow. And I think it will grow in relation to our collective consciousness as we grow and realize that it's something that the world does need. And it's something that can continue overall. So just zoom out, stop looking at daily. Like if I looked at you as a person and I judged you by your bad days, then I'd be like, oh, this person's a piece of shit. But if I judge you by your good days, I'd say, oh, they're amazing. But if I zoomed out in a much bigger time horizon, I'd know that you're just a person living a life and growing.
I agree. My one of my producer slash assistant moderator loves you. She says we need the F-bomb jar because every time she comes on, she's like, fuck. And we joke. We joke because I don't think everyone realizes the time we're in right now. I think you realize the time we're in, which is really awesome. And the fact that we have this opportunity to evolve into such an amazing world right now, but we have to break free from the matrix, which is why you're called Zion, because we've got to break free from this matrix, right?
Yeah, and I think there's two aspects of that. One is our own soul work that we have to just expand our own mind and give ourselves a little bit more sovereignty in ourselves. And then the second piece is like, okay, now how do I expand that around digitally? Because we've given so much up digitally that we don't even understand. Like, look at the base layer of identity on the web. Google owns 1.5 billion Gmail accounts. Usually, I would say 90+% of the internet population will use a centralized email address to log into other services downstream. at the base layer, you don't own who you are on the web.
Correct.
Use Gmail. If you use anything at Gmail, at Yahoo, at AOL, at whatever, you don't own the base layer of your identity online. It's broken.
100%.
So someone said, you mentioned sovereign a couple of times. Can you expand on this? Own your own identity on the web. Use a DID. Also, shill, read my book. I tell you exactly how to do it. I'm
Well,
so bad
it's
at this, by the way. I'm like, I've never been like a sales guy in like in a person to person sense. This book is really strange for me for it to be out there because it's like I've always had this theory that reading is it's a friend of mine that gave me this theory, but it's now in my mind. Reading is risky because the human mind hasn't evolved to a state where they can have someone else's ideas in their brain for a long period of time. So it's just cool and kind of weird that my ideas are out there in the world and there's people that are potentially reading my thoughts in a long format. This is different because I can hear you and you can hear me and then I can process and go back and forth, and this is a dialogue. So the brain doesn't process, but books are very different. So I don't know, it's kind of cool.
You're right, and I think one of the most powerful things that people can do is, and if you can't, you have to work on this, is be able to sit down at a table with people from completely opposite viewpoints. I may not agree with them, but you can sit there, listen to them comfortably, understand their viewpoint, and have carry on a conversation without getting triggered over everything. Like that's a very powerful thing.
Voltaire is my spirit animal. I don't agree with what you'll say, but I will die for your right to say it.
100%. And Nicolette says the statement of soul work and correlating to the digital world was profound. I actually I had a little mind when you said that regarding the sovereignty of our digital ID as we're out there. Because right now, you're right. No one owns their digital
I don't know
information.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they don't. But Justin, people don't know this. That's why I said is who is going to do the education for a site or an organization like a Zion, and then the others that come behind it, because you're the pioneer. Who's going to do that education? Because the majority of people out there right now have no concept that they don't own their stuff.
I think I'm starting it.
You are. You are.
I think
100%.
I think I'm starting it. I think I'm starting to write more. I think it's aligning with influential people that can tell my story. I think those are the things that I'm spending most of my time on, is just really expanding upon these ideas of, hey, you can own your identity. You can own how these things work. It matters to you because eventually you're going to want to own everything.
You're a bright mind beyond anything you can imagine. And I only see that because as a different person looking at you and seeing the profoundness of what you're doing, man, whether people like it or not, or fully agree with it or not, what you're doing is literally changing the world.
I hope so. I hope the ideas, I hope Zion works, but if it doesn't, I hope that the ideas and the patterns that we've at least talked about, and it maybe inspires someone else to think about sovereignty in a new way. The book's called Unapologetic Freedom.
What is your message, if you have one, which I'm sure you do, but because I would appreciate it if you had one, um, to the kids out there, to even to adults who, have been caught in this thing, but mostly the kids because they're the ones we have to hand this over to, regarding how you're doing what you're doing, not with Zion, but just your mindset at 33 years old, and the fact that you can just completely create for yourself and make your own world, because so many people are caught up in the education matrix where they're not a sovereign person. I gotta read, I gotta memorize, I gotta standardize test, versus you who is literally creating your life every single day.
What was the question?
What is your message to people out there based on what you are living freedom right now? What, like, what if you're
message.
if we did show and tell, dad comes to school, what do you tell a group of budding young people that have ideas?
Don't fear no. And the only way you'll survive is to continue through the rejection. if you actually believe in what you believe. Because most people quit too early in everything that they do. They they give up the dream they want for the dream they have now. And I think that's the biggest struggle is people take no for an answer in certain ways. I think no in certain aspects, of course, no is no. But like when it comes to like rejection in business of people not supporting you, if you actually want to change the world, you have to accept that that's going to be the reality, and you have to just push through. And also, maybe that's not what you're supposed to do. Like I don't come here to claim that everyone can be a great entrepreneur or a great business leader or a great thing, because it's actually not a great, like for most people it's not great. It sucks. Most of the time it's really hard. And when I mean by hard, but it's like emotionally hard. It's very lonely. It's like, so most people shouldn't do that. I don't recommend people being an entrepreneur because you have to compete against me and I'm a savage. I work so much. It's all I do. And it's like, I don't want that upon anybody. I want some, like most people live like a truthful life and have a beautiful life. But I don't know if that's helpful. If like you really believe in it, don't stop. But I think there's very few people that want to do that. So find something you love and do that. Be creative. Right? I'm creative. I'm an artist in my own little way. I'm like the thing. The only difference is instead of painting, because I don't know how to paint, I'm building tech companies. That's the only difference. I just like I'm still doing all the same stuff. I'm figuring out problems in my brain, putting pieces together, and making it my own little art piece. Just I'm doing it in a different way.
Everyone's an artist, man. It's just a different art.
Oh, that's a good way to say it.
Dude, I love it. I love it. Um, I want to
I
respect
wish
your
I
time.
had I wish I had more profound things to say.
That was
I'm not
profound, man.
that I'm not. The thing is I sometimes look at stuff like Jordan Peterson and I'm like, wow, that guy's really smart. I'm like, I don't think I can say stuff like that.
No,
But I try in my own way.
the exact thought that I was so I was going to share this after because I'm going to go on continue live after we're done here.
Okay.
And I was going to share this, but I'll share it now because I was going to share it without you here, but it's okay.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
so I've been doing this a while live, and I think live is the most fun because anything can happen and anything has happened in the past. But I've talked to everyone from Kash Patel in the Department of Defense to Ted Nugent to anybody, right? Like, and I've had big, I've had small. And I'll be honest with you, this is for everybody out there. This is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done right now. And I'm not saying that because he's here. I'm saying that because real profound answers of expansion of the soul happen when you have someone like you who is thinking the way you think. It doesn't matter what Bitcoin does, what any other coin does. It doesn't matter what the financial system does. It doesn't matter whether you make billions of dollars or you make zero over your life. It's the processes that you're going through right now, that I'm going through right now from a mental and a spiritual standpoint, that is what makes all of us. And it's funny because when I asked you that question and you went quiet, I've been trained to shut my mouth, not by other people, just my own thing, because you have to let somebody process something and what you were coming up with. And you even said afterwards, I hope that was something. Your pause and actually thinking about that was so profound because that's coming from within. Dude, most people have bullet points they come with. And no matter how much I try to knock down the bullet points and get like who they are, they just do interviews all day long and they come up with bullet points. You're not a bullet point person, and that's why you're one of the leaders of this.
Thank you, man. I received that. That
I
was very
appreciate it.
nice. Thank you. Thank
You're
you for that.
no matter what happens, dude. Like I appreciate everything you're doing out there.
Thank you, man. Thank you for this
Absolutely.
conversation. This was very cool. I've never done a live thing. I've actually that's not true. I did a live thing, but I've never seen an audience dynamic like this. This was a really new experience for me. So thank you. I hope everyone found it valuable. Thank you for the time.
Absolutely, man. Where can people? So anybody who's interested in this, so Zion, is it open to everybody? Like, can
Not
people?
so right now so if you want to get on the wait list, which we highly recommend anybody listening, go to getzion.com, put your email in, you'll be on the wait list. Zion V2 is coming. We had to kind of close down the V1 architecture because the pattern we was using just wasn't to scale that we want. So if you put your email in, be great. If you want to find me, I'm just Justin Rezvani. You could find me pretty much anywhere on the internet. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and my book's on Amazon. So I and our on our website, you can go look at all of our code. You can look, everything's open source. You can look at everything.
You're awesome, man. I appreciate it. Go read the book. I'm working through it. It's amazing, amazing book. Dude, again, I have to be very frank. The openness you had when I go into Twitter sometimes, and I'll randomly throw somebody a message to say, "Hey, you should come on. Some of the stuff you're doing is awesome." You never hear from people again, dude. As soon as you messaged me right back, and I think we even went on Instagram, I was like, "Dang, this guy's not playing around." Like, I know how much he's working because I see what he's doing, and he takes the time to actually go out there and reach out to people. That is what this is all about. I appreciate you more than you can know, man. I am looking forward to your project and what you're doing and how this is going to change the world.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for your time. This was great, and I hope everyone found it valuable. See you guys
Justin
soon.
Rizvani from Zion. Thank you, sir. Have an amazing day.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye now.
Take care. There is Justin. Man, I'm going to go over this again because I will tell you, even though I said it just there. Okay, let me be transparent about this. I'm always curious behind the scenes. So I know what shows are popular amongst the viewers, and those shows are never typically my favorites. I have crowd favorites, and I have just my own personal favorites. And again, the way I found him was crazy because I followed the Tuttle twins with my daughter and my wife, and JP Sears is partnered with Justin, and I've followed JP for a long time. And so we just like connected and made it happen. And he like to have someone who's doing the things he's doing connected like that as fast as we did it are amazing. But I'm going through, and keep in mind, he's a very technical guy. Like when you're in code, there's a running joke. I used to be in the software world. I'm not a programmer. I'm not a coder, but I used to be in the software world. So I was around a lot of programmers and coders. And sometimes they're tough to communicate with because they're in code all day long, right? As I was interviewing Justin, I'm like, this dude is deep in this analytical thought. And sometimes, and that makes me a better person doing the show because as a communication back and forth, I have the things that I want to talk about. But at the same time, with anybody, when they pop something up, you got to kind of go down that rabbit hole with them or that topic with them while still thinking about all the stuff you wanted to ask. And he was so fun to actually like, I was trying to think about next thing he was going to throw at me because he's so analytical. It's actually really cool. But then understanding he's also analytical, but he's also very sovereign, and he's a like he understands himself as a spiritual being. That's cool stuff. And then I have learned through self-development training as well as being a doctor and going through school. Something that makes people really uncomfortable. So the average person who is having a conversation with somebody, if you ask them something or ask them a question and they are thinking about it, or maybe it's a complex or a tough confront question, right? Or you're asking them something and they need to give an answer back and they go silent because they're thinking about it. They're going to answer, but they're thinking about it. The majority of people out there despise or they can't handle the silence from someone who's pondering the question. And a lot of times on camera, it's called like dead air time. Like I don't care about it, right? Because I'm not in the radio world, right? Or anything like that. But the majority of people will jump in to try to assist them or help them with the response of the question. But after a lot of training, just shut up. So as he's pondering, and this is why I brought this up afterwards, as he's pondering, I know something like freaking awesome is coming. So my job is to sit there, shut up, do not interrupt the soul communication with source exchange that is going on in his mind right now, and just let him flow what he's flowing. So someone said they thought the internet dropped. I know. The silence was beautiful, and I am so thankful that he was put in my path, and we were able to have that conversation. And so that whole thing, literally, it may not be the viewer's favorite, which I think it was actually, because yeah, I like him, right? That just skyrocketed to the very top of my favorites. And hey, I'll be honest with you. I was like, when he said we're going to make transparent salaries and payroll, I was like, internally, I'm like, I don't know if I like that, especially as a business owner. Like, I'm not opposed to it. I have to think about that. I got to process that. So it wasn't even that it was just like, ooh, everything was perfect. The best parts about that whole thing was the expansion and stretching of everything. Like, it forced me right in the beginning. Some of what he was saying forced me to expand. Then I asked questions of him that forced him to expand, because all the videos I watched of him, I don't think anybody asked a question like that at the end. That's what made it so fun. What a freaking powerful being that is right there. Like, really, truly, that's pretty awesome. Good stuff. Like, really good stuff. So keep an eye on him, and what he's doing. And hey, come on. Like, retired and good at 33 years old. When I say retired, it doesn't mean he's like, he made a good salary and no, the dude had businesses. He killed it. And we talked briefly ahead of time, and he was talking about some equity firms and certain monetary things. Like, imagine your kids at 33 doing so well that they can walk away from the work world, and now he's working on his purpose. It's his purpose. He's 33 years old, has an abundance of resources, has no concerns about daily life, still working his ass off, and it's all on a purpose to expand this society. It doesn't matter what you think about Bitcoin, XRP, etc. Dude is focused, which is pretty freaking awesome. I thoroughly enjoy that. Which leads me into, I'm so happy he was on, because it leads me into something I'm going to talk about here in a second, and we'll end on that. Is, first of all, the Dow is down. The market is down hard, right? The market is down hard. The reason I bring that up is because, hey, people have money in markets and pensions and everything else, right? Yeah, we had brain candy last night, and now we're having you're having noontime eye candy. Oh my God, that's awesome. I love it. So I'm going to do this. I want to talk about this because this will be the way to end. I was going to talk about the market, but who cares? We had too much fun just now. And it was a spiritual fun. It means we worked. We were working that last hour. That was work. That was expansion. Expansion is not all easy. It's work sometimes. Last night I did a ADD, ADHD webinar. Not because I believe in ADD and ADHD. I know. I did it because, and man, maybe my purpose was like this was perfect timing to have that last night and him on today. And now I have to go for vacation. I'm being forced to bring peace to my running around like crazy. I'll still work because I love it. We have a gigantic problem in the world. I've talked about this, but I know there's a lot of new people in the last year. I don't think I've really talked about this for at least probably 6 months to a year plus. And that is the degradation of not just the body, the degradation of the soul, of the very being that is you. In my viewpoint, this is not our first go around. I also do not buy into that we're here, we're done, and it's over with. It's not a one-time situation. I grew up in that paradigm, but luckily I also had people around me that didn't necessarily believe that. And I do believe that we do reincarnate. And I believe that it's a learning experience. And the whole thing is a learning experience. And it doesn't take away from anybody's faith, because ultimately it doesn't change for anybody. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Christian, Muslim, or whatever other million different names, religions there are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your faith. You can say, I say this all the time. My mom is a recovering, well, let's just say she beat it, right? She'll say recovering. I don't like to use the word recovering. My mom is a recovered alcoholic and drug user. My mom is also a born-again Christian. My mom is also a believer in reincarnation, and the soul comes back around. She's also a believer in the spirit world. She's a believer in ghosts and beings, and however you want to call it, right? So it's funny because when people will come up to me and go, and I've had this before, you can't believe in reincarnation. That's not part of Christian. Well, I'll tell you this right now. I don't really give a shit what you think. You can think whatever you want to. I am perfectly fine with that. What I can tell you is, one, I believe that, and you don't get to dictate my beliefs, so we're good to go. And my mom, who is probably one of the most powerful people that I've ever seen on this planet to go through what she went through between alcoholism, drugs, pain meds, and she got herself off all those. That wasn't through rehab. She did it, and with AA. And then she is a born-again Christian, and she also believes in reincarnation. And I see that she is a much happier individual. You can tell me whatever you believe all day long, but guess what? That's the beauty of sovereignty and of me as a being. I don't even have to agree with you, and I can still like you. I can still agree with some of your viewpoints, but I don't even have to agree with all of them or the summation of what you came up with. And I can still be friends with you, love you, think you're an amazing person, and not have to agree with you. Isn't that the beauty of not only America, but also this planet? But that's also what they're using against everybody, right? My mind does not work exactly like Justin's, because I'm not into that world of decentralization. But I would in the coding and understanding that stuff, even though he's not a coder. But I understand it in like the healthcare world. I understand it a little bit in the finance world, etc. And the biggest thing for me was understanding that they almost destroyed my brain, my mind, my body, and my soul because of the medications. So not everyone has to agree with me on this. And I know people out there in the viewing audience right now are on psychotropic drugs, and they're happy to be on them. And that's fine for them. I'm not accusing you, not judging you at all. I can just tell you this: the entire profession. Now, when I say the entire profession, I don't mean every single psychiatrist, psychologist, etc., because there are a lot of good ones out there who are trying to help people, and they just don't know what's going on. But the profession of psychiatry, psychology, is built on destruction for the purpose of destruction of the creative, beautiful human mind, human body, soul. And I think what you're seeing right now is the taking apart, defragmenting of that matrix. It's funny, people asking like, what's Zion mean? Go watch the scene in the Matrix where Zion is free, right? You also must free yourself. But right now, like for example, last night, I gave some key bullet points out there. The fact that your schools, when people say to me, the schools will be fine. Schools get paid for the amount of mental health screenings they put kids into. I'm going to tell you right now, if you took the average person and they spent a week around me or a month around me, the average person out there who's eating crap food, watching garbage on television, putting crap in their body, etc., the average person is going to look at me and go, that person needs a mental health check. Not because I do. I just don't operate like everybody else does. Like people will be like, oh, you're eccentric. I'm like, I know. That's me. That's me. I put up the other day as a post on Facebook, Telegram. I said, I am. So I watch Seinfeld, not as much as I used to. I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, not necessarily the show. I'll watch clips. I used to watch it back in the day, but I don't have HBO or anything like that. I'm not giving them money. So, but I'll watch the show because it's freaking hilarious. My wife actually joked about this. She's like, you're a cross between Jerry Seinfeld, Cosmo Kramer, and like Larry David of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I go, well, you're right. I'm not those people, but that's my personality is very similar. And I said, if you've ever watched like Larry David, many people would consider him to be a complete asshole. And I go, and I kind of have a lot of similar viewpoints. And I go, so sometimes I'm an asshole. And I don't care. Now, it's not that I don't care about people. I'm just being me. Not enough people are being them. And the drugs, the medications, the alcohol, the everything stops you from being you. Could you imagine if we had a bunch of like, not now, when I say a bunch of Justins, a bunch of myself, I don't want us. I'm just saying free minds. What if we have free minds? She did say hot baseball player too. What if your children's minds were free? And honestly, that's part of the purpose. That's part of my purpose, is getting these minds free, getting these souls free. I believe that's actually what we're heading into. I believe we're heading into free souls and free minds. That's what I believe. And that's what we need to do. Because the amount of genius and creation that comes out of them are unbelievable. Like absolutely unbelievable. I hope that helps. But I'm going to leave it as that because, man, I just had fun with the interview. Yes, their intention, the intention is to destroy the souls in the mind. I can tell you this right now. All of those kids, and that's what they are. All of those kids, those children who are on the streets in Washington, D.C., around the Supreme Court, in New York City, or wherever they are, wearing their vagina hats, if they are yet. I'm sure they will at some point. I don't hate them. I have no reason to hate them. I don't even, so here, even if you go out and you have promiscuous sex with somebody else and you make a mistake and you get pregnant and then you go and you get aborted, guess what? I really personally don't care. It's not my body. You can do whatever you want to your body. I am not the judge of that. I'm not going to agree with you and I'm not going to be around you, but you can do whatever you want. That's part of the human experience. Will we make it illegal? Yes, we will. If you are doing things for nefarious reasons, you will go to jail because we do have rules on this planet. And not only are you killing off a creation, you're not only you, this is how personally we take this. It's not just the body. Like, yes, a baby comes out and you're killing off a baby. This is the bigger atrocity. This is the biggest criminal act. It's not even the meat suit. It's the destroying of another being, of another soul. Say there's 1 million babies that are killed every year. I don't know the number anymore. I don't even follow it. How many Teslas could there have been? How many Justins could there have been? How many Jasons could there have been? How many Lincolns? How many Rifes? How many Edisons? How many, it doesn't matter if you like person or not. How many Washingtons? And all the other great names that go, I'm just going off the names that pop in my head. The crime is we don't know what that being was. And that being could have helped free humanity. Those beings could have got us there faster. So yes, these meat suits, we need some laws here. We need to keep some codes up. And yes, those women, those children, I don't judge them. It's not my place to judge. Yes, they are spiritually lost. Do I think that they can be brought back? I don't think a lot of them can be. Can some? Sure. I'm sure they can. That's not even for me to judge. I will be on the board to help try to figure out how many we can save with the intention of saving, but it's not my job to judge. But this is a product of this culture. Exactly. This is the culture that we have allowed to happen. And now we must bring this back to spirituality. We have to come back to spirituality. We have to unleash these spiritual beings again. We have to bring in amazing beings that can create a better new world. Let's do a couple minutes worth of questions. Can you give us a quick opinion of the Fed rate hike? Well, look at the market today. Exactly what I am a financial studier, but I am not a financial expert. I'm an advocate of taking care of yourself and your family. Everything that Fred said yesterday is true. My opinion is that there's a plan to help make this a softer landing. The souls will keep coming back, but the karma keeps getting worse if you keep killing them off. There are karmic rules to taking out souls, even if they do come back again. Because then again, that also goes into their timeline. They have to deal with that. Oh, Nicolette had to step away for spiritual reasons. You'll find out why. I don't know why. Is Zion an NFT or a coin? It's neither. It's an actual site. It's a social media place. The coin they're using is they're using the Lightning Network on the Bitcoin coin network. Fred, let me tell you, Fred, yesterday was my favorite interview with Fred. Okay. The new website is bravetv.com. Is that the one you're talking about? Or are you talking about Zion? I have to go back and see what it was. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think was it zion.fyi or something like that. My new website is bravetv.com. Just go to bravetv.com. Fred is warming up to our way of thinking. Okay, this is my situation with Fred. I love Fred. I am trying to get Fred to think that maybe there's a way of tokenizing this whole thing to not destroy America. We can't do his one plan he talked about. And he said he doesn't want to do that either. We can't rip the Band-Aid off because you won't just have $25 bread. You'll have literally destruction of the entire American economy and the world. It's over if that happens because people aren't going to survive. People aren't going to be able to buy $25 bread. If you have $25 bread, the grocery store will go bankrupt because people aren't going to buy the $25 bread. All right. Nicolette, you can jump on here. Oh, wait, let me send you hold on. I'm not on the same thing. So let me send you a thing. Because I'm not on. I had to change up stuff for him because it wasn't working correctly. Nicolette apparently wants to share something. Sounds fun. What did I use to set up my website? I did not build it. I had smart people build it. I paid them to build it, and it's still being worked on. Don't worry. It's not the whole Brave TV is probably about I would say 35 to 50% done right now. It's not all the way. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay now. So, do you remember a few months ago I told you probably can't hear me. Sorry, my mic.
I can hear you. Well, I could hear you, but now it's even better.
Okay. So, do you remember a few months ago that I said that I had a pain like all the way from my temple down my jaw, and you had your wife test me and you said that it was a spiritual thing about like what are you stressed about? And it happened every time I was feeding Andrea. Well, I was just feeding Andrea and the pain came back. It's come back for like the last few days. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I'm not stressed about anything. So
that's what I always say.
Well, I decided to Google the spiritual meaning of like the left side in the brain and stuff like that. So I was just looking at that while listening to you guys. And it says that on the left side of the head, it means that somebody is trying to harm you. And I'm like, okay, but what is the correlation of the fact that it's happening anytime I feed my daughter? It's only about the kids. And I just like, you literally were just saying, like, oh, what if we didn't have this? And it's just, I started bawling because I was like, they're coming after the kids. And that's what I'm so worried about. Like, now that I like cried and got it out of my system, I feel a lot better because I like realized it and kind of like emotionally released it. However, like, it's so crazy how like that pain just went went away the second I realized it and started bawling.
That's called emotional energy release is what that. It's not a technique. It's just what you had.
Yeah, because I was like sitting there like, okay, feeding her, breathing, trying to calm myself down. I'm like, I'm really not stressed about anything. Then your head goes into what am I stressed about? And you have like a million things on your mind of what you have to do. But none of that was the case. And it wasn't until like I realized like it's because I'm in this fight of they're coming after the kids that this keeps happening.
This is exactly why you are unable to save what we have left. meaning we have a group, we have a country. What they've done and what they're remember what, and you know this. Obviously, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking just out loud.
Mhm.
The majority of people have no idea. We probably don't even fully know the scope of some of the stuff that they're doing underground, God knows where, in extraplanetary activities, etc., that would literally rock all of our worlds to the
Yep.
point where, figuratively, not literally, you have to burn it down and then you have to come out of that something brand new, the rebirth of the new place. It doesn't mean you lose the culture of America. It doesn't mean you lose the ideals. The founding documents are still great. It doesn't mean you lose all that. When I say burn it down, it means I can't have. I shouldn't say I can't. Let's not say my daughter's like, Daddy said it can't. I will not have the Megan Foxes of the world teaching our children to ritually cut themselves and drink each other's blood.
Correct.
Or the movie, whatever the hell it's called, Fresh, be played everywhere. The very fact that that gets one view is wrong.
Yep.
Who, and I know people are like, well, I'm into the interesting part of horror movies and blah. No, there's nothing in that. But I've seen the trailer. There's nobody out there. You could love Halloween all you want to, and you could be like, well, I need to go to the next level of fear. No, you don't.
No.
There's no reason to watch the movie. I shouldn't even watch the damn trailer. But
No,
that's part of our programming. Like, oh, I got to check out what this is so people know it. Delete it all.
Yep. Yep, I'm with you there. I couldn't even once I saw the meat grinder in that trailer, I was like sick to my stomach because as somebody who does that with harvested meat from a deer and stuff like that, it's just there's people out there that do that and it's disgusting, and the fact that they are basically showboating it through movies and stuff now is just but yeah, I just wanted to come on to tell everybody about that weird experience. My pain is completely gone, but it's man,
Do
it's
you
about
remember?
the kids.
So do you remember? Do you remember? I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but do you remember one night where Dr. Jen lost her cool?
Mhm.
And I remember the night that happened, and I just sat there and I just let it happen because it needed to happen. And then there were people that said, she needs to keep her composure. She needs to this. She needs to she like, and I don't even know if those people are still around. It doesn't really matter either way. It's over with. The whole point was, if you don't comprehend at this point what this is really about, and it's not about getting angry, but the pressure cooker sometimes has to release some steam. And
Mhm.
when you're fighting for this every single day, sometimes you got to release the steam. The pressure cooker has to be opened, right? But
Yeah.
for people to be like, you can't be mean. You got to keep your composure. Folks, we're human beings. We're souls.
If I
When you
listened
when you
to
see the destruction and you see the not care and the people are like, oh, well, we just need to go back to normal. No.
and no, and this is we've talked about this before about how one side of the aisle is louder than the other. It's because of stuff like that. It's
Right.
because people are quieting down voices saying, you know, "Oh, Republicans don't behave like that. We don't do cancel culture. We don't do this." No, it's time to get loud. And if I listen to every single person that told me like, "Oh, I'm abrasive and, you know, I could say things nicer, you know, don't swear because it's unladylike and all that jazz." I mean, I wouldn't be the warrior that I am today if I let people fucking say all that stuff. There's no way. So,
I love that. I love that Justin just, that's part of being free,
mhm.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I and I think that it came from my past relationships, and like I always say, like I don't regret anything because I learned I had somebody silence me for like 3 years. I'm talking like wasn't allowed to have social media. Like I don't want to say like I couldn't speak out of turn, but I definitely watched what I said and stuff. And now it's like, if my husband ever told me to pipe it down, I'd be like, excuse the hell out of me. You did not just tell me that. Like I don't put up with that type of stuff because we all have a voice. And like Justin actually quoted one of my favorite quotes, which is,
Voltaire.
it's actually not Voltaire, but it is. He had the quote right, just not who wrote it, because Hall actually wrote it talking about Voltaire, and it's, I disagree with what you're saying. However, I will fight to the death to defend your speech. So freedom of speech. I always say, like, we can have these arguments and stuff, and I'll go back to when I made a Facebook post when they started censoring people very, very heavily before the 2020 election. I made a post that I had tape over my mouth and it said vote red. And I made a huge like Instagram and Facebook post about how, conservatives are being censored and all this other stuff. And I had somebody just come on my thing. He's a liberal and just say, ew, bye. And I was like, okay, that's your opinion, but I'm still going to fight for your opinion to say that. The fact that one side wants us completely silenced is saying something because they don't, it's over the target. They don't want you to say that. And
This whole
I
Go
think
ahead.
that's what Elon noticed and realized. So say what you want about him, but he definitely noticed it's favored to one side.
Wendy, if everyone always agreed, there would be no growth and life would be boring. This is something I battle with still, like today. I not battle for me. I battle on why people. Oh, here's a good example. Okay, what Joe Rogan, right?
Mhm.
Joe Rogan, like, almost hates. I wouldn't say he probably hates it, but he does not like chiropractic. Like, he's even had a couple shows where he just, like, trashes it,
Yeah.
right? Do I hate Joe Rogan? I do not. Do I have a membership to watch Joe Rogan? Yes, I do. Why? Because I find him fascinating. I agree with
More
him
about his
probably.
guests, I feel
Huh?
like. I said it's more about his guests, I feel
Well,
like.
it's his guest, but I also really appreciate how he just sits and chats with somebody and he asks
Yeah, like
questions.
he doesn't put his own, he'll ask the questions, but he doesn't put his own opinion into it. He lets them freely talk,
And
which
and I could sit down with Joe Rogan, have a chiropractic conversation with him, and he could totally walk away still hating chiropractic or not liking it, and I could still be friends with Joe Rogan. And
yeah.
I've always struggled with understanding why people can't sit down. And the biggest one is religion. Why people can't sit down and discuss religion. And it actually, like, it doesn't drive me up a wall, but I'm like, it's always like it perplexes me. And I'm like, why can you not sit? Why could you not sit down at a table? Like, I could sit down. Like, I don't. Okay, Cliff High. I said this yesterday. I don't hate Cliff.
Yeah.
Does he piss me off? Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Do I still love Cliff and watch him? Yes, I do.
It goes to, when you talk about religion, this is the problem. I said this earlier on the Noble Patriot thread because somebody said, as we were talking about religion the other day and the freedom of religion, they said, we're never going to accept Satanism. Said, nobody said you have to accept it. You don't have to be a Satanist. However, you either believe in the Constitution or you don't. The people have the freedom of religion to do what they want. Nobody has to worship the same God as you. I could, my freedom of religion could be Greek mythology and I could worship, 20 different something gods. But then you have the indoctrinated religious people that will tell you and have no open mind to it, saying Jesus is the absolute only answer and the only way. Okay, are you going to tell Mormons that? Are you going to tell other people who don't believe in the same religion as you? So, like I said, you either believe in freedom of religion or you don't.
So I'll throw this curveball. I've said this before. It's nothing new. So Islam, the Quran, right? Muslims.
Hmm.
So you're telling me, and I know people of the Muslim faith. So like, I mean, I'm not best friends with them, but I know them. I have colleagues who are. So I have a friend who reads the Quran.
Hmm.
They go to work every day to help children, adults with nutrition, chiropractic, etc. They might pray a different way, etc. All this different stuff, right? And so you're going to sit down with me and tell me they're banished to hell because they don't read the book that you like. And even though that person gets up every day, and I use this example because it's a radical one, right? So somebody gets up every day and they go to church and they're of a Christian faith, and then they go home, they watch TV, and that's what they do, right? And they have the way, and they are the only ones saved. But the guy down the road who is Muslim gets up, goes in, helps people, helps children, helps their body heal, helps their brain heal, then goes and is involved with a couple different charities, helps them, is involved with a couple different groups, their church, etc., all this different stuff. They're going to hell because they don't follow the doctrine that you follow, yet they're doing 10 times more actions than you are. I'm sorry. I can't, I am unable to see that viewpoint. I mean, I can see it.
Yeah.
I'll rephrase it. I can
No, I
see where
get
you're
what you're
coming
saying.
from. How in the hell do you make that? How do you make that real?
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. And that's kind of what I meant by the indoctrinated part. Like the it's just the closed-mindedness. And honestly, this is why I love doing what I do whether it's research or, telling people my research and stuff. It's the fact that it's an open conversation. It's enlightening people that there's other things out there. You know, somebody just said, I have a hard time respecting the views of people who support Democrats. Most of them aren't educated, which is why I put this out there. The black community for so long was told to vote Democrat. It's what blacks do. Frickin' Joe Biden himself said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
I
You know,
have a
but
hard. Go ahead.
if you do the research, you find that the Democrats have been the most suppressive group out of the two, coming from, the KKK, the 94 crime bill, all this other stuff. It's the fact that they weren't educated on that. I have black friends that I've literally said, hey, why do you guys like Kamala and Joe Biden when they're like the number one people to lock black people up for small crimes and all this other stuff and like ruin the black family? Well, there wasn't any better choices, blah blah blah. Like terrible excuses. They probably didn't even know that when I first said it to them. But did I plant a seed of, maybe they'll do some more research next time?
Works don't get you to heaven, apparently. I have a ultra liberal family member who does not agree with me on most everything, who's also had probably at least one abortion. I can't confirm or deny, but I'm based on what I've heard or seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her and I get along great. We could go to lunch or dinner anytime. We disagree jokingly over almost every major topic in life. And yet I give her a hug when I see her. I give her a hug when I leave. We get along great, and we are the complete opposites on ideology. And she's done things that I absolutely do not agree with at all. And I don't understand why people can't do that.
I don't either, because I mean, it's like there is stuff that I'm very hard headed about. Like obviously, but it's when it affects you and your own that's that's the line where I draw, just like, freedom of speech. You have the freedom of speech unless it infringes on my right of freedom of speech,
Right.
that type of thing. So, Tim and I were talking about if we were opposite sides, how would you make a relationship work? And I just don't see how people do it. If you have kids
I
together,
wouldn't marry a person that was the opposite of me like that
right,
at all.
exactly. So, like, we have a friend, he's a Marine friend. He's 100% pro-Trump, and his wife is like a Bernie supporter and was one of the first to get the vaccine and all this other stuff. And I'm like, how do you parent your 3 boys? How do you have that discussion? Because, he's against the vaccine, she's for the vaccine. Somebody has to put their foot down. And in those type of cases, I can understand why the discussion would be hard, but somehow they do it. They're happily married. I don't know how they do it, because there is some stuff that I'm not willing to bend on if it affects me and my own. So,
If I sat down with the if I sat down with the atheist, I'll use atheist because it's easy, right? Complete,
mhm,
basically opposite opinion of life that I do. I had atheist friends in school, right? I knew that they're atheists. I could care less, right? Now, say an atheist girl sat down and I could chat with her. I could have fun. I could chat, laugh. We wouldn't have to agree on stuff. I would believe that there's a supreme God or creator. She would say that there's nothing and life is just short and it's over and blah blah blah. And we could literally have dinner, go to lunch, party, like just have a blast, right?
mhm,
May not agree on everything, but we'd have fun. I would not marry that person.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't marry him.
Like, I struggle with it even with, like, in my family, just for little things, like, people don't realize, and it has to be, like, an open conversation about, like, my brother will shut down anything about politics. He has a Democrat girlfriend, and he kinda just doesn't give a shit. He knows both sides of it, and he just doesn't care. It doesn't really affect him that much, so he doesn't care. So, when we were talking about, like, where we wanna take a family vacation, my sister threw out Austin, Texas. And I said, "Out of all places in Texas,
Liberal.
you wanna go to the most liberal city." And like, my brother instantly in the tweet, like, the text thread said, "Why do you have to bring politics into it?" And I said, "Listen, this is why you have to bring politics into it, because it being a liberal city means it's expensive as all hell. The crime rate is up. They probably have mask mandates. And keep in mind, I'm going with my kids and myself, and I'm not doing the whole mask thing. This was a few months ago. So I was like, this is why politics are involved in a decision of even where to go on a vacation. Because, what is my son, who is 5, who does not do well in public areas like restaurants and stuff if it's noisy, and what do we do in a big city like that? This is why we take vacations where, we have the beach to play at. We have, Tennessee, where we can go hiking or something like that, actually, like, get in touch with outdoors. I said, what am I going to do in Austin with my son? That's not a vacation for us, and it has to do with it being a Democrat-run city. And, like, my brother doesn't look at things that way, but when you say something like that, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. Like, I don't wanna go to an expensive-ass city where I'm going to be fighting my child the whole time because he doesn't want to be dragged into stores and a restaurant, you know?
My favorite liberal city is Chicago.
I've never been.
Oh,
We've
I
talked about going
wish
to the aquarium there,
I
though.
wish Chicago was more conservative. Chicago is such a fun, great city.
Are they leading in
This was
murders right
before
now?
craziness. This was before like everything felt like I was in Chicago years ago a couple times. First of all, clean beyond all belief. I know Eglay. Eglay's from the Illinois.
Did you hear what I said? I said, "Are they leading in murders right now?"
But it's the city. I'll be honest with you. We took my daughter one year. I wouldn't go right now. I'm talking
Yeah.
before pandemic, right?
Well,
We
that's
took our daughter. We had so much fun one year in the summer.
yeah. I mean,
Now, again, I didn't come. I laughed and I thought it was hilarious that I walked into a coffee shop and it had like no gun sticker on the thing, and I literally laughed about it. I'm like, this is ridiculous, but like,
yeah.
I can still appreciate the city.
I don't even know the rules on
I
that. With, like,
loved New York before all this happened. New York City is the greatest city on the planet before the pandemic.
I've never
And
been to New
my
York.
wife despised it. I would go to the city every single year. New York City, right here.
See,
But guess what? It's a liberal ass city.
I was gonna say, if I went to New York, I'd go to like appreciate the arts of like maybe see a Broadway show, and then I'd probably want to go around Christmas and do like the outdoor like ice skating thing, all tree lighting, all that jazz. But I've never been to New York either. I live very close to Detroit, used to live even closer, and at one point that was starting to get better. They built a lot of infrastructure down there, which if you go down to Detroit, it's sad. Like there is such a sadness in the air because there is beautiful architectural churches and buildings, and it's just a freaking wasteland. There's all these gorgeous buildings, yet they're just wasted.
I'll tell you this though. There's really no conservative cities, but guess what? This is the other problem. And this is why I'm a libertarian technically, right? Because, and Justin, he came across very centrist. Like you can definitely tell that he said he was, right? But
Mhm.
if you send me to an overly conservative area, I'm not going to have fun there either. Why? Because a lot of them are known to have sticks up their asses. Like you're way too tense, you're way too tight, it's way too overboard. I'm like, I'm out because like
Yeah, like
I'm
I
not
don't
in I'm
I
not
don't
into liberal stuff, but you got to loosen up a little bit.
right. I mean, I don't wanna go to an overly conservative area where it's, "Hey, I don't like that your bra strap is showing when you're wearing a tank top," and all that
Right.
type of stuff. There
Like
is people out there like that.
my wife is not going out to dinner. She's not going to look like, a prostitute, but she's also not going to be all bundled up where nothing shows because, like she's not showing it for anybody else, but she wants to look good, right?
Yeah, yeah, and, yeah, I get it, but like I said, there's just they've destroyed some of these areas, and that's like I was saying about, the Democrats don't necessarily understand. It's hard to respect their viewpoints, but they're not educated. Why do they keep voting Democrats in for mayors and stuff like that when, their cities are garbage? They're overrun. You have people like, what the hell is his name? Michael, he's so stupid. He's a actor. What's his last name?
I don't know. He's so stupid. Is it the guy?
Rappaport, that
Oh,
guy.
the dude who got the vaccines and lost his shit.
Oh my god, he's an idiot. He literally filmed like Walgreens and Rite Aid and stuff getting robbed and completely cleared out in New York, and then goes on, I don't even know what show, Wendy Williams or some shit, and says, "But New York is still the best city in the country." You literally just filmed somebody clearing out your entire store, watched them do it, and said how big of a piece of shit he is, and then go to another Rite Aid where it's completely empty, and then you're bragging about New York City. And
100%.
you still won't admit it's because the way you voted.
Lizzie from Boston, I am literally the epitome of a Libra. And I'll tell you this.
We both have Libra energy, and my chart has Libra energy in it too.
I'll tell you this. This is my judge of a person. You ready? I'm not judging them, but this is how I know if I can hang with somebody. And there's obviously probably many ways I can do this, but here, if you can't sit down and watch a show like Curb Your Enthusiasm and not laugh hysterically,
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this. Not because it doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means like if I like be able to hang with the reason why, if you can't laugh at yourself, but also appreciate the hilariousness of both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the scene of Larry David doesn't want to hang out and have lunch with some dude. So he's trying to figure out how to get out of it. So he's like, I'm going to wear a MAGA hat.
Yep. I mean,
Now, the average conservative is going to be offended beyond all belief because damn, he's a liberal and that is one of the most hilarious things that you can do. Like that is the epitome of comedy. Like I will
think this
sit
is
down
why
and
I
like
left South Park.
hysterically the fact that he wore a MAGA hat into it to get the guy to leave. And he was willing to put on, super liberal, was willing to put on a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
That's life. That's the hilariousness of life.
It sounds so juvenile, but I think this is why I like South Park. They make fun of everybody across the aisle, but a very, very conservative person is like, that show is so inappropriate, type
That's
of
the
thing.
point. That's why comedy.
And
This is, if you can't sit down and watch a Rogan or like the Pryors of the world and Carlins of the world, if you can't sit down and watch that and genuinely understand it and laugh, I'm not mad at you and I don't hate you, but I'm probably not going to hang out with you a lot.
yeah, it needs to be like this is what we were talking about the other day. There needs to be some purple. It can't be all red, it can't be all blue. And just for an example, because I was watching South Park the other day when I went to bed, that stupid Trevor Noah came on. I cannot stand Trevor Noah. However, it was the very what?
He's not a comedian. He's a shill.
Yeah, he's horrible if you ask me, but
he's not that funny, honestly.
I left it on because I saw what guests were on. And it was Amy Klobuchar or whatever the hell her name is, and they were talking about the Roe versus Wade stuff. And then guess who else came on that night?
Who?
Bill Gates.
Gates did?
Yeah, Bill Gates was on. And I didn't even make it to the Bill Gates part, I'll be completely honest. I either ended up falling asleep or I turned it off. I can't remember. But he was doing this whole excerpt thing on Roe versus Wade and talking about this and that and vaccine mandates and whatever. He brought up the fact that how some people like Ted Cruz and stuff were talking about how it even got leaked and how that's like important to look at. And he said something that really made me think because he goes, the right always finds a way to make it about them and be the victim. And that's how we think about the left. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't consider being a victim of it. I'm not a victim of Roe versus Wade or abortion. I'm looking at the baby as being a victim.
No, he was saying that we were crying about how it got leaked. And he was like, I don't know.
That's being a victim, or that's like wanting justice for you don't leak important stuff?
No, he was saying it as like these people were, like it got leaked and talking about how it could affect midterms and, like not the justice aspect of it, about how it could hurt the agenda of the right. But it was stupid regardless.
Left, right.
That's what I'm saying. The left side, they really think that we're the ones that play the victim.
It's just a volley back and forth. That's all this is. A volley back and forth, folks. That's all. This is just a back and forth game. And unless you pull yourself out of it, that was basically Justin's message this morning. I mean, you're finding
take a step back and look at the full scope of it.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
Yep.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on and letting us know your epiphany.
Yeah, I feel so much better.
That's fantastic.
I got a lot of work to do, though, so I'll talk to you later.
Hey, everybody. I want you to have all a great week. Tonight is the Brave TV Prosperity Group, gold, silver, cryptocurrency. And if you aren't in there, some people just lost their asses. So not on gold, silver, and crypto, on fiat, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P, you should come and learn where to put all the money.
Yes.
For Nicolette and Dr. Dean. And thank you again to Justin. Everybody have a great day. It's Brave TV. Love, serve, and help. Be good.